So good morning, everyone. Very pleased to welcome you to this proposal workshop. And you've been invited to this proposal workshop because you passed the first step. You passed the preview form. We checked your eligibility criteria, and that's why congratulations. We organized this workshop for the West region. So all the countries in our region, including DACH, so Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Benelux, UK, Scotland, Ireland. This is our area, and all the founders that are joining this call are from this area. That's why we have the ecosystem leads here for these particular regions. So my name is Victoria Huffman. I'm sitting in Berlin, in our Berlin office, responsible for DACH and France. But we also have Martin Beaton here, responsible for Scotland, and also Tessa Holcomb, responsible for UK and Benelux. And of course, we also have our regional director, Morgan Gillis, here as well. Next slide, please. We will just give you a short overview on what to expect for today. So of course, the key information you will receive today is about the proposal or the online portal, because other than, for example, at VCs, you need to fill in an online application form, which is, I assure you, not that complicated as it sounds, not like applying for public grants. It's quite easy, but still you need to understand the structure of the online portal and what we seek from you. So before we start going through this proposal form, we also give you or remind you on the criteria of the call. I'm sure some of you already have heard about it in the last call. Promise we'll make this short, but just to give you a small reminder on that one. In the end, we will have time for a Q&A session. So feel free to use the chat function here. We will answer all the questions throughout the presentation through the chat function, but we will also cover some questions in the end. If you have more questions after this proposal workshop, of course, feel free to contact Tessa, Martin, or me, depending on in which region you are. Yeah, so over to you, Morgan.
Thanks very much, Victoria. Good morning, everybody. My name's Morgan Gillis, and as Victoria said, I'm the director for West of Europe region. So it's all the countries that Victoria mentioned, plus Ireland as well. Of course, Tessa Holcomb looks after Ireland. So this event really is a workshop. It's not us primarily presenting to you. We will present some things to you. But just as much as that, this is an opportunity for you to interact with us and ask questions of us while we're together in this event. What we want to do is to move you all forward decisively towards preparing and submitting the best possible proposal to represent your organization. So do use the chat channel. We'll answer some of the questions via that channel on the way through, and some we'll probably hold back and discuss when we get to the Q&A session itself. I know that many of you did join us for our strategic venture workshop in September, and there you will remember that we gave a high-level overview of our funding and support programs for startups and for scale-ups. But I also know that some of you were not able to attend that event. So what I'm going to do here right at the beginning and fairly swiftly is to just run through again the key proposal ingredients or essentially the criteria for having an eligible and a competitive proposal. So I'll cover that, and then, as Victoria said, I'll hand across to Martin, and Martin will jump online and he'll walk through a full proposal on the online proposal portal. So let's start with the recap. Cutoff 2 timetable. This is called Cutoff 2 because it's our second proposal window in 2023. We're now in the window for preparing proposals, and the submission deadline is on the 13th of November, as you see here, 4 o'clock GMT or 5 p.m. Central European Time. And it's also worth mentioning that the selection period is quite short with this call. So it takes about 2 to 3 weeks, certainly no more than 3 weeks, for the evaluation to take place and for the selections to be made. So by the first week, or maybe just into the second week of December, we'll be in a position to notify the parties that have been successful with their proposals. And then it moves fairly quickly also, as you can see, into the execution period. The execution period for these activities is the 6-month period starting in January 2024. So it all moves quite quickly. But I know for most of you that's a positive, because you've probably had experience with other calls where the decision making cycle is very long and protracted, and that doesn't generally work if you're a startup trying to move forward quickly. So that's the timetable. Don't forget the date, and make sure that you submit in good time on that day, or of course on prior days. Some very simple preferred venture attributes. This call is really about commercialization. So it's for startups that already exist and already have some commercial traction. And what we're trying to do with the Innovation Factory is to provide intensive support and significant funding across this 6-month execution period in order to enable the company to move forward decisively on its commercialization trajectory. So when we look at the proposals, we're looking for established customers. If you're a B2B business, it doesn't necessarily mean a lot of established customers, but we're looking for at least 1 or 2 established customers, and customers that are allowing you to generate revenue. The second one here, it's not a hard condition, but it is a preferred attribute, which is private investor involvement. I mean, for us, you can see why this makes sense. It gives us additional validation for your company, your product, and your management team. I'll talk more about this in a couple of minutes, but it can be prior private investment, it can be future private investment, but we like to see some measure of private investment in play with your company. And the third one really follows from the first one. We like the company to be post revenue as well. That's obviously the basic signifier of commercial traction. So those are the preferred attributes, and a couple of reminders here, which is, first of all, do read the documentation. I know that some of you have already done this, but it's worth carving out half an hour or 45 minutes to read the 2 documents which relate to this call. The general one is called the Open Innovation Factory 2023 call document. That's about 13 pages. And then there's an ancillary one called the Cutoff to Specific document, which is a very short one, but that includes some additional conditions which pertain specifically to this second cutoff window. And then the second point here is this is just a time-old piece of advice from us, and time again it proves to be true that you stand the best possible chance of success if you begin creating your online proposal early, meaning right now. And I had a look this morning. I know that some of you are already busily creating your proposals online, which is great, but don't leave it late. The reason for this is that, as with most of these calls, there are certain nuances and aspects which can make all the difference between having a standout proposal and a Me Too proposal. So if you start early, that means that we can keep an eye on what you're doing, and we can provide you with the support that you need to deliver the best possible proposal before the cutoff. We'll talk more about this, but after this workshop, there's a subsequent workshop towards the end of this month, which just focuses on the financial aspect. And also, if you move forward quickly, then we're very happy to set up what we call a one-to-one surgery. But this means that we will set aside half an hour for you to talk to us bilaterally with us as a team. And as you can imagine, that's often extremely useful in just fine-tuning your proposal to make it as strong as possible. So 2 important reminders: read the documents and start early. Thanks, Jessica. So we are EIT Digital. That means that we obviously focus on the digital sector. But within the digital sector, we particularly focus across all of our programs on 5 strategic focus areas or domains or segments. And it is important that your product aligns with one of these strategic focus areas. You can see them here. We have digital cities, digital industry, digital well-being, digital tech, and digital finance. These are all described in our strategic innovation agenda, which you can find on the website. Fairly short definitions for each of these strategic focus areas. They're easy to relate to. If you're not sure, then please ask us early. There's a good practical reason for doing this, because when you start setting up your proposal, one of the very first inputs that you make is the strategic focus area input. And the system is such that if you get halfway through creating your proposal and then you decide that actually you should have been aligning with a different strategic focus area, you can't then adjust it. You have to go back and start the whole proposal again. So just be thoughtful about selecting the strategic focus area and speak to us if you're not quite sure whether you've got the alignment in the way that it should be. It's a deep tech call, so within those domains or focus areas, we also, in this period, are particularly keen to see programs which exercise AI, cybersecurity, and/or quantum computing technologies. Again, these are not hard prerequisites, but these are positive elements if we see them as part of the enablement for your product. Consortium setup. This is very straightforward. If you've participated in EU calls before, you'll probably be aware that they almost always ask you to build a consortium which spans at least 2 countries or at least 2 EU member states. Obviously, the purpose of that is to drive international collaboration through these calls. So this one is no different, and the basic requirement is that you must have 2 parties within your consortium. You can have more than that, but generally speaking, we suggest that you certainly don't go above 3 parties, because the execution period is very short, as I said, and it's really not practical to have a complex consortium properly engaged with such a short execution period. So just think in terms of 2 or 3 parties, please. Next, Jessica. This is the basic framework for the financials. There is an EU funding part, EU grant funding part. This is the blue part, EIT funding. This is the money that we put in. For this call, this is funding of up to 400,000 euros. And then, as with most of these calls, there is also a co-funding requirement. And for co-funding, it's required that your consortium contributes 50% or even more than 50% as co-funding. Almost always that's in the form of effort in kind. It can be in cash, of course, but generally speaking, if you're an early stage startup, you have cash flow considerations and you probably wouldn't push your cash in this direction. So almost always it's effort rather than cash. So that's the basic financial framework. Yeah, equity consideration. So Also within this call, there is a requirement for you to propose a percentage of ordinary shares in your venture, which will transfer to us as the consideration for the support package that we provide and for the funding that we provide within that 6-month execution period. You've probably seen from the main Innovation Factory call document that the guideline is from 5 to 15%. And this obviously depends upon the maturity of your company. If you're very early stage, if you've just really begun to commercialize, then we would normally expect to see a higher percentage amount and perhaps a lower percentage amount if you've already got decent commercial traction and a very good product. In theory, you can go lower. You can go outside this guideline band. You can go down as low as 2%. If you go outside of the guidelines, in other words, if you go below 5%, then it is extremely important that you have a strong rationale for that written into your proposal, because primarily the evaluators will prioritize proposals which fall within the guideline figures, which you can see here. But you can go lower, but you have to justify it very thoroughly. Private investor involvement. I touched on this, and I explained that this is valuable to us because this gives us validation and usually a higher level of confidence that we're backing a good team, a good company, and a good product. So this can be in different forms. Sometimes it's prior private investment, could be angel investment, could be venture capital investment, obviously very early stage venture capital investment, or it could be other grant funding from another EU program or from a national level program. That's also valuable to us. In the toolkit, you'll find a very simple template letter which you can use to ask your investor or investors to complete in order to give your proposal this support. One letter is for prior investment, and then another scenario is planned investment. So if you have an advanced discussion with a prospective investor who intends to put private investment, or again it could be public money, into your company in the 2024 timeframe, not necessarily first half, but at some point in 2024, that's also valuable to us. Doesn't necessarily have to be a formal commitment, which is already inked into a contract, but we are looking for some degree of commitment if you use this form of support planned investment. There is a third scenario, which is co-investment. This would apply if you have a private investor who is already committed to deploying investment into your company within the execution period, so within the first half of 2024. If you have that scenario, then we can set this up so that the money from us is written into the same agreement as effectively co-investment. That's a little more complex, obviously, but if you have that scenario and you want to chat about it, then just let us know, and we can set aside 10 or 15 minutes to walk through that with you to see if it will really work for you. But whichever scenario it is, please do let us know about the investor involvement that you have. This slide is eligibility criteria. So these are really harder conditions. And when the evaluation process starts shortly after the submission date, the first thing that is checked is these basic eligibility criteria. And if you don't align positively with these, then there is a likelihood that your proposal won't go further forward. So incorporation date, we're looking for companies incorporated on or after the 1st of January 2019 through to the submission date, so through to the November date. The applicants must be incorporated in an EU member state or an associated country. The proposals must obviously request a maximum of 400,000 euros of funding. The co-funding part, as I mentioned, must be at least 50%. 50%, bang on 50% is absolutely fine, but you can't be below 50%. And in fact, the system won't allow you to submit your proposal if you don't come in at the 50% level or higher. And then finally, the venture that we're supporting and placing the funding into must have outright ownership or a substantial majority ownership of the IPRs in the product to which the proposal applies. So obviously we're expecting the ownership of the product to also reside with the company that is receiving the support. So those are the basic conditions. Keep those in mind. I want to say a few extra words here about participation by UK parties. It's great that we have had a strong level of interest in this call from UK companies. We do very much welcome that. Unfortunately, the situation for UK participants is not as straightforward yet as we would like it to be. So let me just talk you through this. You almost certainly saw the joint announcement from the EC and the UK government in early September, which was very positive. It told us that finally the UK would associate to Horizon Europe at the beginning of 2024 and from the Horizon Europe 2024 work programme. Now, this particular call predates the Horizon Europe 2024 work programme, and therefore we do not expect that it will be possible to deliver funding to UK parties through this cut-off to proposal window, unfortunately. There is another scenario which you may already be aware of and which may be of interest to you. This is the UK government's Horizon Europe guarantee. We're not involved in the guarantee. We can't give you any warranties or assurances about it. But in the past, the UK guarantee has worked well for participants in our programmes. So if you submit a proposal and if your proposal is selected through the normal criteria, the ones which are documented in the call documentation, then that would place you in a position where you could submit an application to the UK government guarantee to seek funding there. So because of that, if you are a UK party and you do submit a proposal to this cut-off window, then we will evaluate it in the normal way alongside the other proposals from non-UK participants, albeit that we will not be able to provide EU funding for your company at this stage. So as I said, it's not straightforward. But I believe that this will nonetheless be an interesting scenario for some of you to proceed with it, albeit that it comes with the uncertainties that I've just mentioned. So if you're from the UK and if you want to proceed in this direction, in very simple terms, you prepare your proposal and you submit your proposal in the normal way through the submission system. You pay attention to eligibility criteria and the other desirable attributes. You must have a second party from an EU member state as part of your consortium as well. So you set it up as though the UK was an EU member state and you submit it. If it's selected positively through the normal selection process, then you will be in a position to seek guarantee funding from the UKRI. We can't guarantee ourselves that you will receive it, but right now we have 14 UK companies from prior proposal cut-offs who are going through the process of obtaining guarantee funding from this UK guarantee, and some have already successfully received the funding. So that's the scenario, and I wanted to explain it clearly. If you're from the UK and you want to have a bilateral discussion with us about this, of course, let us know, and we can discuss the ins and outs further with you. But that's basically how it works. No guarantees from us. You'd be participating more or less on a speculative basis, but it has worked well for people in the past. So that's the UK scenario. I think that's the last slide from me. Yeah, that's the last slide in terms of the recap. I'm going to stay involved while Martin takes you through the online walkthrough. I'll keep an eye on the questions, and then we'll move into the open Q&A session after that, which Tessa is going to facilitate. So thanks for your time, thanks for your attention, and Martin, I'll hand over to you here for the walkthrough.
Thank you, Morgan, and good morning, or yes, good morning, everybody. This is the fun bit. This is what you've all been waiting for, I hope. As they say in TV land, you should never go live with children or animals, and I'll add to that the internet. So this will be a live walkthrough. Historically, it's worked very well. Hopefully it will today as well. Just bear with me if it doesn't, but I think it will be good. So first of all, Jessica, could you pass on to the next slide? There's been a couple of questions in and around this. What is the URL to access the application form? So as has been mentioned, the only way to submit proposal is through our online portal. This makes it very straightforward. There's a lot of validation, etc., to make sure that you're not making mistakes. You can only submit the application if it's fully complete and meets the criteria. So you have the URL there. Now, hopefully most of you have filled in the partner information form. If not, I'm going to show you in a second how you can do that. Let's assume that you have filled in the partner information form. That's not quite enough yet to get into the system. That little box down there at the bottom that says if this is your first time, then register here. So when you filled in your partner information form, that registers you with EIT Digital. What we also needed to do is to register using that information in the portal, which will allow you to access the system. So I'm going to switch now to my screen. And if you put in your username and password, you will get something that's quite similar to this screen. I'm going to jump off it for a second to show you the toolkit, but we'll come back to this screen, and this is essentially where everything's going to happen from. So the toolkit has already been shared actually in the chat, and we'll share the link later on in the presentation as well, and in a follow-up email. This gives you all of the information that you need to fill in the form in one place. It's actually incredibly useful. We created it a couple of years ago, and it's been a brilliant tool and resource. So we have a countdown there, a little bit scary, only 33 days, but that is plenty time. Don't worry about that. And then we have a number of steps. Now, they don't necessarily need to be taken in any particular order. I think everybody here has already filled in the proposal preview form step 1. Step 2 is about the documentation. I'm going to touch on that a little bit in a second. Step 4 is around about brokerage. So this is what we're asking for. If you were looking for a partner, follow the link there and you'll be able to put in information which will support you to find a partner from within or without our network. The partner information form. Now, step 5, this is the one that you need to fill in if you're looking for access to the portal, which I assume everybody here is. So if you follow that link, put in the information you're looking for. Almost always, you're probably looking to apply as an external partner, but you may also look to be applying as a full partner. You can make a decision on that. There's information there to explain the different partner types. Now, when you're filling this in, this is not committing you to be a partner of EIT Digital. It really is only at this stage to access the portal. Should you be successful and wish to take it forward, then you would be looking to become a formal partner of EIT Digital. But at this stage, this is no obligation, no commitment, just to access the portal. Morgan also mentioned the investor support letters. You can find templates in the links here. and also a customer support letter template here. Now, these are only templates. You can obviously spin your own, but we find that these ones, using these templates or basing your documents on these templates, give the appropriate information to the assessors. And then finally, how to access the proposal submission page through the portal. That's step 8 there. And as I say, you can access step 8 after you've completed step 5. They don't necessarily need to be completed in order. In fact, please start step 8 before you do step 6 and step 7, or at least run them in parallel. And the other link, which I presume you've all looked at, is the Open Innovation Factory 2023 link. You can find that easily by Googling EIT Digital Open Innovation Factory 2023. It's got the documents here, and also some of the dates and other information that you'd be looking for. So, for example, on the 25th, there's a Q&A session which is run centrally across all regions, and some other information there. So it's a useful resource as well. Now, if I bounce back to, you've filled in your username and password on the portal, you've got access to this screen. I've probably got a bit more on this screen than you will have, but you will have a link here for Open Innovation Factory. So if I click that link, this is where you have all of the information and data that you need in order to complete your proposal. Much of it you may not need straight away, but down this left-hand side, there's some really useful information in and around a model grant agreement. So this comes in really useful when you're filling in your finances and what kind of scenarios with what kind of budgets go against what budget codes and that kind of information. That's a really useful one, certainly. The partnership models, I mentioned this, external partner, full partner, etc. That's a useful link there as well. And we've got the cutoff to specific document here on the left, but also we have these two documents here in green on the right-hand side. You can link to these from a number of different places, as I've shown you already. However, please do, as Morgan's already underlined, please do read them. It has all of the information. If we miss something when we're talking to you here, that information is in here. So please use that as your main reference. Now, when you're ready to start filling in your proposal, and you can start filling it now because there's a lot of information that you will have at your fingertips to get going on that process. You're just going to click this blue button here. Now, your screen is probably not going to have anything on it unless you've been involved in a proposal submission in the 2023 call window already. So it's probably going to be blank. What you can do here actually is feel free, if you want to perhaps run a little test, there's no harm in that. You probably see test up there in the top anyway. You can create as many proposals as you want. This will not be held against you. Ultimately, you will go on and fill in and submit a single proposal relating to your innovation, but you can experiment and play around with different proposals if you like. It's not going to be a problem. We only look at the one that's actually submitted. So to get going in the whole process, it's just clicking Add New Proposal. Do you want to create a new proposal? Yes, we're creating it now. So the way that the portal is set up is there's a number of 7 tabs. The feedback tab number 8 is where you get the feedback after the assessment of your proposal is complete. So there'll be nothing in there, and don't worry about that one right now. But the other tabs essentially is going to chunk down the various aspects of the proposal into specific kind of categories. The very first one is needs to be filled in before you can do any of the other tabs. And when you're filling in this first one, you really are committing to, I think, 4 or 5 different decisions that you then can't change. So you really want to make sure that you get them right. As Morgan said, for example, the segment, we'll come to that in a second, because I'll just start filling this in. So selecting the area, you're going to be choosing Innovation Factory. Okay, don't choose any of the other ones because then it won't be valid. So you're choosing Innovation Factory, and then the segment, this is the digital focus area. As we discussed before, if you're in any doubt of the digital focus area, have a chat with us. It helps if you look at the EIT Digital Innovation Strategy to make sure that your proposal is sitting in the right place. Ultimately, it's your decision. We'll help you as best I can, but it is important that you get your proposal into the right digital focus area. So I'm going to choose digital, one of my favorites, digital tech for this one. Now your execution period is going to be number 4. So you're going to be executing this proposal between 1st of January 24 and the 30th of June 2024. So that's in. Your activity type is there's only one, but you still have to choose it, Venture Boost. You're always going to be a new activity. There will be no circumstances where it's a continuation of an existing activity and we don't already know you and have had a large number of discussions with you. So you will be a new activity. Everything proposal activity title. So this can be changed afterwards. So I'll just put test proposal. We may come back to you with some suggestions of how you should title it, but just put something in that makes sense to you for now for this one. Now every tab has got either a save or a check and save. This particular one's got check and save on it. So it's going to make sure that you filled in all of the mandatory fields before you can actually save it. So check and save. Now, like I said before, these area, segment, activity type, execution period, and newer continuation cannot be changed after you've saved that. The rest of the proposal, everything can be edited, but these ones sort of set the direction of the tabs after this, so you can't change it. If you make a mistake here, it's not the end of the world. You'll be able to create a new proposal and then copy and paste all of your data into the new proposal. But unfortunately, we can't change this once this one's been saved. So I'm going to check and save now. And we should get a nice green tick in that tab, which means that this tab is complete. All the criteria have been filled in. Now we can move on to the next tab, which is just around some basic information about yourself and your consortium partners. So I'm just going to choose, I always choose the same ones when I do these proposals, but if you've filled in your PIF, you will now appear in this list. So I'm going to choose just the first one here. Let's assume that this one is this organization is the lead partner. So this is the organization, you, the business champion, the innovator. And from this organization, you will have one or more people registered. And so let's just choose this person here. Now on that, actually, so you can register multiple people within your organization. Multiple people within your organization against your registration so that you can choose other people as you go through the proposal. It's not mandatory. You can actually get away with just choosing the same person over and over. But sometimes people like to be able to allocate different people to different tasks, etc. If you want to do this, double check with Tessa exactly how to do it. I forget in the moment exactly how to do it, but it is definitely possible. On that note, actually, what is not possible is to have, this is not like Google Docs, you cannot have multiple people registered and working on the document at the same time. So only one person can be updating the document at any time. So if you need to share responsibility for writing, then I suggest that you can share your password and login, for example, but make sure that you're not working on it at the same time. I think it might have some unpredictable results. The other way you can do it is, of course, create some sort of Google Doc or similar, work on that collectively, and then copy and paste the text into the proposal when you've decided on the various parts of the text. Now, so you've got you in as a lead partner. If you remember, you need at least one other organisation in a different EU or associated country to be a valid proposal. So let's just assume that you have chosen. Let's assume that this organisation is in fact, I know these guys. These are in Scotland, so they're definitely a different EU country. So now we have a complete consortium here. You can obviously add other partners if that's something that makes sense for your proposal, but we do obviously recommend with these shorter 6-month activities that 2 is probably enough. For some reason, this has come in as south, and it should be west. I have absolutely no idea why that is. We'll have to double check that. And for here now, again, so you don't always have to validate. If you're maybe halfway through this and you don't have time to complete it, check and save won't work because it will say that there's fields missing. So what you want to just do here is save, and you're halfway through, and when you come back in, you'll be able to continue it. But I know, or at least I think, that I filled everything in here, so I'm going to check and save. And it has given me a green tick, so it's all done. Now, the next two tabs are really about the activity and your organization. So I'm going to quickly run through this, give you an idea of the kind of information that you want to put in here and the expectations from a KPI, etc. Point of view and deliverables point of view. So first of all, you'll see these little question marks. They mostly have really useful information about what you should be putting into this field. Now I'm going to click this one and nothing will happen probably. Oh no, I do. So yeah, here we go. Please describe the activity purpose, be clear and concise, and aim to people not expert in your knowledge area. So this is, I'm not going to say ChatGPT might be helpful here, but maybe it will. You want to explain the activity that you're planning in this 6-month activity in a very clear, crisp, concise way that's understandable to people who are not necessarily experts in this field. And I will just put in some information, just something random, and save. So you'll have seen there, actually, it's worthwhile pointing out. So if you click that edit box, this pops up. Now, depending on your browser, sometimes this box can be out of screen. I've found recently, I use Safari, it's always in the right place. But if you click that button and there's no box appearing, have a look up and down, it might be appearing somewhere else. Now, the only thing I wanted to point out here was down at the bottom here, you have a character limit depending on the field itself. This particular one is 500. You will not be able to put in more than 500 characters. So that's why sometimes some people like to work in Word or Google Docs or something, so they can keep track of their character count. So the next two are about impact on economy and impact on society. So these three boxes actually are really important. These are the first ones that the assessors really see, and I think you really want to work hard on them to make them really punchy. Maybe as you're developing your proposal, you might put something rough in now as a kind of a placeholder, and then come back and polish it as you get closer to the submission date. So the impact on economy, once again, we have some information here. The recommendation here is make sure that you're not talking about just your region or your country. You're talking about economy from a pan-European sense, and the same with impact on society. How is this going to have a societal impact on the whole of Europe? Now, work plan. So this is much larger than the other ones. This one's 3,000 characters. This is, if I click on here for you, make sure I'm getting this absolutely right. Okay, so the activities, work plan, and a breakdown in tasks and milestones. Now, there is a sample proposal that we have that was very successful in the past that we can circulate for you. It gives you a good idea about how you might write this work plan. Some people use just bullet points, for example. Some people chunk it down through kind of the work packages. They have who's going to be running that work package, what the months, say months 1 to 3, this one's going to be happening, etc. So there's a variety of different ways that you can attack the work plan, but it is an important field to make sure that you're communicating exactly what your plan is going to be over the 6 months. Sometimes it's worthwhile coming to this later on in the proposal after you've completed some of the other aspects of the proposal, talking about how you're going to be implementing the work packages. But feel free, for example, to put in bullet points at this point. Role of the partners. So this is really a bit of I would give a very brief bio of the organization that's going to be involved, and then what they're going to be doing in the project. So for example, they're going to be running a pilot test on 30 of their employees, and will provide you with a report based on the outcome or something along these lines. Now we're on to what the project is really going to be delivering. So there's 3 key kind of segments here: outputs, deliverables, and ASQTs. The joys of ASQTs. They're not as bad as they sound. The outputs, once again, we have the question mark here. So these are the activities outcomes. Now we have 4 here already. These are default. These will go in automatically based on your choices in tab 0. I think no matter what you do in tab 0, I think they're the same now. So you've got activity management, technical solution MVP, business model, and the sustainability mechanism. The recommendation is that you don't add any more outputs. In the past, when we had longer, when we had a longer call, longer activity period, sometimes it made sense to add other outputs. To be honest, you're just creating more work for yourself if you add other outputs. My strong suggestion is just leave these as they are. You can fill in a little bit of a description based on what's going to be happening in each of these outputs. So for example, in activity management, this is really the project management process. Got 750 characters here. And then you're just going to save that. Don't need to fill that in. And then the deliverables. So these are things that your project is going to deliver over the 6 months. So this could be documents, it could be videos, it could be something tangible. Once again, we've got a question mark here. Again, it's saying these are the optimum number of deliverables. Don't add any more deliverables unless there's a really pressing need for them. I think anything that you're doing, you'll be able to fit into these deliverables. Ultimately, deliverables are things, reports and documents, etc., that you will have to create in order to fulfill the requirements and obligations of the funding. So if you're adding another 3 reports, for example, these are reports that you're going to have to fill in and submit and be passed in order to fulfill the obligations of the activity. So our suggestion again here is don't add any more deliverables unless there's a pressing need. Now, one thing to note, these deliverables are linked back to outputs. So every deliverable has an output, but an output doesn't necessarily have a deliverable. That's you don't need to worry too much about that. But they are linked back, and they become more obvious in the financial section where this kind of information is teased out. Now, activity specific quantifiable targets, the ASQTs. These really are. I think that, so in my opinion, they communicate to the assessors the ambition of your activity. So these are targets that you yourself are setting. So for example, I'm going to create X number of customers, or X number of customers will visit this website, or something along these lines. These are things that you set yourselves. They're probably they are certainly important, but they're perhaps not quite as important as the KPI targets, but it does show your ambition to the assessors. So be ambitious, but don't be crazy here. They have to be achievable. Now, KPI targets, these are, again, the optimum number. You probably don't want to add any more, but there are a couple of exceptions. So for example, if I click add here, and I drop down here, there's the other optional KPIs that you could be adding. So if I drop down to, for example, so you'll see there's 2.1 there. So 2.2, in fact, I think we've already got 2.2 up here. Wait a minute, let's just double check. We've got 2.2, I've got 2.1. If we forget that. This one is a deliverable that's associated with the RIS. So for example, if you are operating in one of the RIS countries, you're going to have an impact in the RIS countries, then you'll probably want to choose this one. And I think there's another one here, worthwhile having a good look. They're well explained. Yes, so women, female part of the activity team, for example, that's another one. If you have female participation in your activity team, then you can add this KPI as well. This will go in your favor. So I encourage you to have a look through these core KPIs. If you feel that you'll be able to meet them, then you can certainly add them. The other piece is that if you are, for example, a B2B organization and you don't do any B2C, then you're at liberty to delete the B2C part, or vice versa as well. But don't delete any of the other ones. Risk assessments, I guess there's nothing too exciting here. What we're looking for, it doesn't have to be huge, just give the assessors confidence that you know what the main risks are and what the mitigations are going to be. Again, we've got business, operational, personnel and technical here, but there's actually other ones that are included here and risk categories. So for example, there's other, there's legal, etc. So you can add in what you feel is appropriate for your activity. Moving on a bit swifter, outlook, yes. How are you going to scale a venture once the activity is finished? This is important that obviously after the funding period is finished, for a lot of organisations that can be a cliff edge. So how are you going to get past that? How will you give the assessors confidence that this activity will then springboard you onto the next thing? And are you already planning for that? And if so, what is that planning? What is that plan going to be? Extra EIT information. This is the innovation triangle. So do you have any links between innovation, education and business? So universities, for example, industry, etc. You can put that information in there. The keywords, predefined keywords and self-defined keywords. This is always a little bit clunky for me. I think if you click here initially, there's nothing. Then I think you have to click the, yeah, you have to load the keywords. Yes, please. And even though my gigabit connection takes a second, and then you can drop down. Come on. So I mean, it can be a little bit clunky, this one. Oh, here we go. All right. Okay. So what you're looking for is 5 predefined keywords that best describe your project. Now, this is really for pigeonholing or tagging your proposal. This is not something that's going to be reviewed or assessed, to the best of my knowledge. So just have a look through and just try to choose the best 5 you think that fit your project. And then you can add a further 5 here. I think you need a minimum of, it can be up to 5. I think you need to add at least 2, but the system will tell you if there's not enough. If you're, the next 2 are self-explanatory, risk countries and a declaration here. Once you're done there, you'll check and save. Now, we have not filled everything in, so I can only save this one. And saved. Come on, there we go. Right. And then we can move on to the next tab. So I'm going to run through this relatively quickly. So this is about really about the topic of the activity you're doing. So the first one was more about the mechanics of the operations. This is really more about getting down to the nitty-gritty of what it is you're trying to solve, and we're also going to be asking information about your company itself. So what is the business pain that you're trying to solve here? Again, 500 characters, which seems like a lot, it is not. In order to get the point of what it is you're doing across succinctly is actually really quite hard. But that's where you're going to explain the business pain here, and then you're going to come through in the next field with the solution. What is your solution and why does it fit? Leverage technology. So this is what is your IP based on? And not necessarily Microsoft Windows or something like that. What we're looking for is there inherent deep tech in there? Is it AI? Is it a specific piece of technology that you've brought in? What is it that makes that you're leveraging in order to create your solution? And why now? This is a relatively standard one if you're used to filling these kinds of things in. Why is your product solution why is now the best time to launch it? Why is this the best time for it to get market traction? Another 500 characters looking for a competitive landscape analysis. Who are your competitors? What does the landscape look like? And then this is a biggie. This is 2,000 characters for the go-to-market plan. So ultimately, this funding is for commercialization or to accelerate your commercialization. So what is your plan within the 6-month period, and in fact a little bit beyond, to take your product to market and to scale it? Are you, for example, saying that you're going to take it to another region? Are you going to leverage some channel to market partner in order to make this to increase the awareness of your product and possibilities for sales through a number of different organizations? Is it a key piece of technology that you're bringing from a technology partner in, and that's then going to fuel the go-to-market plan? Revenue projections. So here we always say be realistic. Ultimately, we kind of expect that this is going to come from some sort of financial plan that you have within your organization. Sometimes people use round figures, sometimes they use accurate figures, but don't say 10, 100, a million, 10 million, 100 million kind of idea. It has to be realistic and it has to be commensurate with what you're discussing in the previous fields with your go-to-market plan and the challenge and the solution. And that's it for describing the project itself. And then there's just information about the activity team and the company and the company itself. So there's some basic information here. There's nothing too clever that I need to talk about here, I don't think. But down here, so when we're talking about investors here, use the template from the toolkit. Ask your investor to fill that in appropriately, have it signed on their letter with their letterhead, and then you're going to upload that here. So that's essentially proof that that you have an investor involved, into what capacity. And then talking about the venture boosted. So this is, if you're the innovator, if you're the organization that's got the IP that you're looking to commercialize, this is information about your venture. What's its lineage? What kind of investment has it had already? Who's working there, etc. If you already have shareholders in your company, then please list that out here. And you have a financial plan field here. As you know, you require 50% co-funding. So explain here, so that, which essentially means that 50% of your eligible costs will be refunded through the from EIT Digital. So how are you going to fund the other 50%? Because ultimately, if it's in kind, if you have an employee that's providing the time and kind, their time and kind, ultimately they will need to be funded somehow. So you're going to have to explain where that funding is going to be coming from. Perhaps it's a grant from a national body, perhaps it's investor funds, perhaps it's from sales that you're already making, etc. But just explain it in here. And so information about the venture team itself. So the individuals who will be part of the activity going forward, over the 6 month, the people who are going to be involved in the 6 month activity, put their names in here. So the specific people that are going to be involved in the 6 month activity. And we have some information, some space here for biographies. That's 2,000 characters here. So it doesn't, again, obviously it's not going to be full CVs, but it's just a bit of a flavour of the individuals that are going to be involved in the activity. Social media profiles, this is something the assessors will have a look at. So put the links in here. If you don't, they're probably going to Google it anyway. So it probably makes sense for you just to put the information here and make it easy for them. Cross-kit collaboration, that's going to be a no. Then it's up to you if you are willing. So EIT Digital run entrepreneurial programs. We have master's students and in their 2-year master's course, and they're available for internships. So it can sometimes be useful to take on one of these individuals. So we're just asking you to say if you're willing to. It doesn't commit you to, but would you be willing to take on an intern, or in fact a graduate from our master program or PhD program? And ethics assessment. This is not, my understanding is it's not one of the high priority ones from a scoring perspective, but it's important if you're using AI, for example, or customer data, etc. Explain the ethics that you've considered to mitigate risks around personal data, AI running away and all the rest of that. So put that information in here. It's 1,000 characters. And then, as you probably know, you need to create a video. So this doesn't have to be a super fancy video. Most people just do it on a mobile phone. It will include the major the very major leads in the activity. Just a little bit of a flavour of the organisation, the activity, and you as leads. It's only 90 seconds. It's really hard to fit it all into 90 seconds, but it helps the assessors get a bit of an idea of you as a person and an organisation rather than just what they read. And that's it for that one. So 3 is probably the biggest one from a filling in perspective. Now we move on to sustainability. So this is relatively simple. As Morgan said, there's a guideline amount of 5 to 15% for equity in recognition of the support that EIT Digital is providing you. So here it's very simple. You're just going to choose equity share, and then you're going to put in a share percentage here. Now, there's no space here to write any mitigation. So, for example, if you were to go below the 5%, as Morgan said, you would need to justify that. I will very quickly show you a good place to put that. So either you can put that information in 3 down round about the financial plan, or another good place to put it is in 2, and we'll talk about this with you later. We're actually going to go over it. We'll have an additional financials workshop, which I'll talk about shortly. So here, this description here, you can put some information in here as well. So there's actually a couple of places that you can put justification in. So that's sustainability. And then, so this is the budgets tab, and you're almost done at this point. Very exciting. This can be a little bit complicated if you've never seen it before, and we will run an additional workshop later on this month specifically on this. And so I won't spend a lot of time on it now, but essentially you'll probably recognize these 4 tasks from all the way back in number 2. These outputs there, 1, 2, 3, 4. So these outputs are brought through into the tasks, and these are what you're going to be applying budget against. So activity management, the project management part. I'm going to edit that, and I'm going to, I would just leave that task description as activity management because that relates back nicely to tab 2. You're going to choose who's going to be doing that. So usually it's the innovator, that's the organization with the IP. So we'll choose that person here. This is going to be a 6-month activity, so I would just run that the whole period, and then we're going to add some costs for that. So we're going to choose the innovator. We're going to choose Luigi again. The year is going to be 2024, and then we're going to put in a budget against personnel. So 6 months, let's say this one is, I don't know, 15,000 euros, which would be 0. So this is the interesting bit, because these are 6-month activities. Say you're planning, so FTEs and personnel are not linked. So if I was to change, let's say, if I was to change that to 1, it's not going to change the personnel amount. So ultimately, you're going to allocate here over the 6-month period, what is the cost of this person to be working on this activity? And then here, he's going to be working, let's imagine he's going to be working full-time for 6 months, so that's half an FTE, okay? And we'll go back and look at this in the financials workshop that we'll do later on this month. But this is essentially how you fill this bit in. Then we're going to check and save. And that information is in here. You'll see that there's the costs, although I've put 15,000 in, that's coming as 18,750, and I will briefly show you why. So in some of the budget codes, personnel, for example, there's indirect costs automatically added, a certain percentage, which I can't calculate at the top of my head. Here we go, actually. Yeah, 25% of A plus C. And this is for overheads like running payroll, pensions, tax, all that kind of stuff. So that's added in automatically as indirect costs. These are things you don't have to report to EIT Digital as eligible costs. These are automatically added on to the funding that you're going to receive. Get rid of that. It's still there. And so you've put in the fact that this person is going to be running the task. Now, who's going to be doing the deliverables for this task, though? So it doesn't have to be the person that's running it. So, for example, we could be crazy here and we could say, actually, 5G3I are going to be actually delivering the deliverable. So it's a report or something like that. And so they're in there. And let's just finish that off because then I can check and save it. Let's see, it's you there. There's a video to be created. We'll make that you. And there's a licensing agreement, which will be you again. Oops. Which will be you. Okay, so now if I check and save, it's not going to work. See if these ones all have green ticks. It's not going to work because this one's not validated. So I need to go in here and just check and save, which will double check that everything's correct in there. Then I get a tick, then I can check and save. Done. That one's done. Now you'd have to go through and do the other three. See, it's not that hard. Now, once you've completed all of that, you can go on to cost justification. Now, we've obviously only filled in something against the personnel budget code, but it will bring this through it will calculate how much you've allocated against personnel and the FTEs, as it will for every budget code you use. And you just have to put some information in here justifying the amount. So, for example, you might want to say it's a project manager, it's a software developer, it's a salesperson, and just spell that out a little bit so that the assessors have got a bit of an understanding of what the budget's going to be used for. And then finally, a relatively simple one. Now, because we've only put funding requirement against one of the partners at the moment, that's the only one that's brought through here. But this is where you are going to, let's move that away a wee bit. This is where you're going to allocate your co-funding, etc. So we have said, and obviously this is incomplete, but we've said that at the moment we need to run this proposal. This company is going to need 18,750. So for example, we could say, right, okay, I need to edit this. So I'm going to put in, for this one, I'm going to put 10,000 of my own funding. So that could be either financial or it could be in kind. And that's all. I'm going to save that. That means that the EIT portion will be 8,750 and it's nicely balanced. Your co-funding ratio is 53%. Everything's hunky-dory. Now, if I was to make that different, if I was going to say, I'm going to make this 2,000, say, and things will not be balanced. The EIT part is 16, the co-funding ratio there is 11%, we're nowhere near the 50%. Now you can build this up, so it's not every consortium partner needs to be at 50%. It might well be that one of your consortium partners says, look, I will partner with you, but only if I receive 100% of my funding, in which case it should be possible for you to make up the difference yourself by having more, by having a higher co-funding ratio than 50% in order to make up that difference and bring that back to green. Once you've got all of your information here, check and save. You've now got ticks all the way along here. Let's assume that that's the case. I'm going to show you what you would do next when you're ready to submit, which is obviously not yet. Going back to the list, sure. So when you're ready to save, let's say this one here, for example, you will have, no, this one here. So say 23009, imagine that's you. You could say, once you've completed all all the tabs and they're all green, this will fill in. You get a little black dot here, and then you have this column here, column 3, with a final submit button. You press that, it will give you one double check. Are you sure you want to submit? You will submit, and then you're done. See, it's not so hard. On the, I'll stop presenting. On the topic of the financials workshop, that always causes problems. So we are running a financials workshop, I think on the 26th of October, which we will go into some depth on the financials section and help you through that, because it can sometimes be a little bit tricky with the budget codes, etc. So don't worry too much about that for now. I'm happy if you concentrate on tabs 0 to 3, so the first 4 tabs, and get these done, and then have a bit of a play in the budgets and see how you get on. It'll probably help you when we get to the point of discussing it properly. But we will run another workshop for that specifically. With that, back to you, Victoria. I think everyone went to sleep.
Yeah. Hi, Martin. I'm going to jump in here.
No problem.
So I'll take over the Q&A. So thank you very much for Martin for the detailed walkthrough. I think that has been very helpful. We have had some great questions come in. Please continue to drop your questions into the chat, and we will try and get through as many as we can in the time that we have. If we do not get to your question, please feel free to get in touch with us after the workshop. After the Q&A session, Morgan will let you know what the next steps are. So the first thing is, will the video be shared? Yes, the recording of this workshop will be shared. We will also ensure that we include time codes so you can jump around the video as you're working with on your proposal, so you can work side by side with the video. How can we access the online form? Again, we'll have Morgan will discuss this later, but we have shared with you the toolkit, and Martin has touched on the toolkit too. All the links are in the toolkit, so the link to the online platform is in that. But again, any questions, any accessibility issues, just jump onto email and get back to us. Okay, so Morgan, if I may put the first question to you. We are in Ireland and we are looking to have a UK company part of the consortium. Is this possible?
Well, first and foremost, you must have another entity from a different EU member state as part of your consortium. So then you would have one from Ireland and one from another EU member state. That's a hard condition. If you want to involve a UK party in your project as well, the usual mechanism for doing that would be the subcontract mechanism, which allows you to subcontract a limited part of the funding up to 60k euros to another party that's not part of the consortium. You have to set that up through what we call a best value for money approach. So you have to run a short open process to allow parties to bid for that piece of work. So that would be one way to do it. You can also, if you really want to, for some reason, have a UK party in the consortium in addition to the 2 parties from EU member states. You can have a UK party in the consortium as a party from a non-associated third country. That's the technical term. So that would mean that the UK party is in the proposal and in the project to do something. In particular, you would define that within your proposal. But that party would not be eligible to receive grant funding, so they would have to be funded on some other basis to be part of your consortium and to be working inside the project.
Thank you very much, Morgan. In a similar question again, if I can put this back to you, Morgan, is we have a strong partner who is also acting internationally, but is based in the same member state as we are. So as I understand, this would not qualify for a consortium.
That's right. That partner would not obviously be from a second EU member state, so they wouldn't allow you to meet that condition. If you do have a different party from a second EU member state and you want to also involve the party from your own country, that's fine. You would then have 3 parties inside the proposal. But the important thing is that you must have a party from a different EU member state in the consortium and in the project.
Then following on directly from that, Morgan, what if the consortium partner is a corporate with HQ in the same EU country as the lead partner, but the consortium partner is actually a site of the corporate in another EU country?
I'm sure I fully understand that, but I understood the first part. So if the corporation is located in your country, it would be the same as the prior question. So if they're in your country and you want to have them in your consortium and in your project, that would be fine. But you would then also have to have another party from a different EU member state as part of the consortium. I would say to all of you that it is positive if you have corporations involved in your consortium. Often they can play a very useful role as a lead customer, for example. If you have a good relationship with a corporation, you can involve them as part of the consortium. Or sometimes what happens is that you position them as a lead customer. They're not part of the consortium, but you provide a letter of support from them, which confirms that they are acting as your lead customer or a lead customer, and that they are working with you to perform certain things in respect of your product. So, for example, they might be doing pilot testing or optimizing the product for a particular market, something like that. But it is good if you can involve a corporation in some way in your proposal.
Just on that, Morgan, so if the HQ is in the same country as the activity leader or the proposal leader, can they use a subsidiary office in another country?
If it's a different legal entity in a different country, then yes, they can do that.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. And then just, can your team facilitate engaging with a consortium partner? Yes, we can. Ideally, it would be beneficial if you have already established relationships with your consortium partners, but if you don't, we have shared the link with you, so please kindly complete that form, and we will circulate it around our ecosystem.
Do that as early as possible as well, please. We're not under immense time pressure yet. We've got a good runway to the proposal cutoff date, but of course we can do a better job for you. We can probably get a more suitable partner if you complete a video brokerage form quickly this week or next week. We can then circulate that around through our ecosystem and through our wider networks. I'm just looking at an inquiry now from one of our partners who is actively looking to be involved in these proposals. They've got a very good track record, so use that route as quickly as you can if you don't have a partner that will enable you to make an eligible consortium.
Thank you very much, Morgan. And so moving on to a different topic around the co-funding requirements, how can current investments be integrated into EIT funding to meet the co-funding requirements? We are expecting investments by the end of 2023. Would this count? Morgan, can I hand back to you on this one, please?
Well, yeah, if you're expecting investments by the end of 2023, that would count. If the investment hasn't been delivered yet, then strictly speaking, that would be future investment. So you would use the future investment template in order to get that into your proposal. But yes, that would be most positive.
Brilliant. Thank you, Morgan. And I just see a message from Martin, that says the toolkit is your friend, so please refer to the toolkit as much as possible. Okay, so if then the next one is, if the co-funding is in the form of cash, does it have to be within the 6-month period? So I think you've answered that, Morgan, in your previous answer. But
yeah, and just to emphasize, the co-funding, whether it's effort in kind or cash, must be delivered within that 6-month time period, not after.
Brilliant. And then in a similar on a similar topic, we have applied to UK Smart Grant for a project. Can the same project be used as a basis of application? And are there any constraints or restrictions we should be aware of having applied for another grant?
No, this is quite common. So if you have secured funding through another national level programme, then you can reference that as part of your proposal using the investor letter templates, and that's definitely a positive. So no problem with that at all.
Brilliant, thank you, Morgan. I'm just going through the questions. I'm aware that we're running out of time now. So I think the next one is, what are the key financial checks and eligibility criteria that EIT Digital considers? For instance, how is liquidity evaluated, especially for partners heavily invested in long-term R&D? Morgan or Martin? Morgan?
Not for me, Tessa.
The financial checks are not that sophisticated. In fact, Martin demonstrated them to you when he worked through the financial tabs, the last 2 or 3 tabs. So you can see that if you've got your proposal set up, then the relevant fields will show green, and that means that you can actually submit your proposal. If they show red, then you're out of line with the basic financial parameters, and you have to make adjustments to come in line. But that's it. There's no other more sophisticated or elaborate financial checks which are performed.
Thanks, Morgan. Martin, I'll give you a nice easy one. Is the submission binding? Does it have to be accepted if successful?
Ideally, we would hope that the applicants would want to carry it on, but no, it's not binding until you have signed the appropriate documentation, which will be sent to you in the form of a grant agreement. So no, it's not binding.
Brilliant, thank you. And then a quick question again for you, Martin. To what extent does the pricing model between customer and startup need to have already been finalized, or can the consortium, I don't have the end of that one, be used?
I understand. I understand the question. I wasn't entirely sure what was meant there. So if it's off my discussion with the proposal form, how much do you allocate to each partner? That's specific to the activities that they're going to be doing, and you have to have that discussion with the consortium partners to make sure everyone's happy with the budgets. If it's how much should you charge a customer for your product, then that's entirely up to you. That's not our purview, but for example, perhaps as part of them being in the consortium, maybe you're offering a special price or something, but you can build that into your proposal so that there's an understanding of what you're planning there. But no, it's all for you to discuss and decide with your consortium partners. Okay, brilliant.
And then Martin, I'm going to give you one more. In the submission cost form, there is an option for subcontracting. Is this for a third entity, just mentioned 60K max, or can it be used with a project partner?
No, it would be for a different entity, so someone who's not part of your consortium. And there's a guideline of 60K. No more than 60K should really be allocated against contractors, and that could be subsourced for subcontracting, but that might be, you can still have 2 or 3 subcontractors if that makes sense, as long as the overall amount is not more than that. But that's a guideline, just to be clear on that. If you read the documentation, it's a guideline.
Brilliant, thanks so much. We do have other questions coming in, but I think we've only got 4 minutes left for the workshop. So if I can just let any questions.
Just do 2 or 3 very rapidly, Tessa,
okay,
just in case there are some important questions left. We'll do them super fast.
Okay, brilliant. So a bit unclear on the meaning of activity purpose field. Is it general activity of the startup, or is the commercial activity planned for 6 months of the period done by the startup?
So this means specifically the purpose of this project. So what is this project going to enable your company to do to move forward commercially? So it's just referring to the purpose of this project.
Okay, thank you very much, Morgan. If the proposal is successful, is there a negotiation of the equity consideration, or is the provided consideration from the application set in stone?
There's no further negotiation.
Perfect. And then there was just a note, not being able to advance to next steps without filling in all the information makes it really slow and laborious to separately work on separate sections as a team. Just to let you know, you don't have to completely check and save each tab, only tab 0 before you can move on. You just need to just remember to save each tab as you jump around the proposal.
And just on that, Tessa,
yeah.
Sometimes, so for example, if you wanted to go into the budget section, it may well be that there's a couple of key fields and KPIs that you have to fill in tab 2 or tab 1 in order to make them appear. But you don't have to fill in everything. Just find what these key fields are, and they'll make sense because they'll be related to what it is you're trying to fill in, and then they'll magically start to appear in the form. You don't have to fill in absolutely everything though.
Brilliant. Thank you, Martin. And then just one more very quick question. Are affiliates of existing investors eligible to be a consortium partner?
Yes, there's no restriction on that. I presume this means another investee company. That's absolutely fine. Investors themselves generally don't join the consortia. They can do in theory, but they tend not to want to have that position. But yeah, of course, another investee company is fine.
Okay, I think that's it. We've got 2 minutes left. Morgan, can I hand over to you?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Tessa. And thanks to everybody as well for that really good flow of questions. I think we got right down to the important points very, very easily together. And I hope we gave you good answers that gives you a clear runway to move forward through the next week or two. So just closing off then, just the next steps. This is important. I said earlier, please move quickly. Generally, we find that proposals which are set up late or at the last minute don't come across very well. So move quickly from today if you're not already using the online proposal system. To get access to the online proposal system, you complete a PIF, Partner Information Form. There's the link. The link is also in the toolkit. And this allows us to put you onto the system. There's a 24-hour turnaround on new PIF forms. So if you submitted one today, you'd be on the system tomorrow afternoon. And this is the first step towards becoming a full partner of EIT Digital. Don't feel anxious about that. If your proposal is not successful, you can step back by sending us a simple email. So this is an administrative step to allow us to get you onto the proposal system. Second point, start inputting your live proposal straight away. Hopefully Martin's demonstration has shown you that there's nothing to be too fearful about. It's always best to just plunge in as others are already doing. You can reach out to us anytime if you need help, but do get started quickly. There is an online example. When you get to the portal, you'll see that there is an online example which we've already set up. The project title is West VB, so do use that one if that's helpful for you. So because we're encouraging you to move forward quickly and for very good reasons, there is a carrot element to this as well. So if your proposal is well developed by the 18th, so by next week, week today actually, then we will be able to invite you to join the next workshop, which is the financials workshop. That just concentrates on the 2 financial tabs that Martin showed you. We do a deeper dive into those to show you how to set them up in exactly the right way for your organization. So if you've got most or nearly all of the non-financial tabs done by a week today, we will then invite you to join the online financials workshop on the 26th. That's an hour and a half as well. It's not too painful, and it's usually very helpful. And we will also invite you to come to a one-to-one surgery session with us, where we will go right through your proposal with you, and we will flush out any points which could be improved or clarified. And those sessions, as you can imagine, are highly valuable. If you do need to find a partner, then we're using a video approach to do this. You can grab a video brokerage form. We ask you to complete a 2 to 3 minute video, nothing very elaborate, but just to talk briefly about your company, the product, and the partner that you're looking for. We then circulate that around through our ecosystem and through our network, and usually that's very successful in finding a good partner for you to work with. But of course, it works best if you get the ball rolling quickly. Last, and of course this goes without saying, but do submit your proposal on time by 5 p.m. Central European time on the 13th. It's a very hard cutoff, so if you're even 10 seconds late in hitting the submit button, unfortunately your proposal won't even be evaluated. So do be mindful of that. Just to also then highlight what's inside the toolkit. I know some of you are already using it, but you've got the link there, and inside you'll find the video brokerage form, the investor support letter templates, which we've talked about, the offline proposal form. So if with your partner you want to set up the proposal using an offline template, there's one in there which you can use. Some people use that, some people just go straight to the online system. There's an offline financial model which allows you to play around with the financials using a simple spreadsheet. Again, that's useful for some people. And there's also a sample proposal in there as well. So that's another way of seeing what a good one looks like. So it's very useful, and it's been really valuable for people that have been through this process in the past. The other thing to say is that we're here as well. So if you get stuck or if something is not quite forming clearly in your mind, just reach out to us. We'll show you the email contact details in a moment. Just to recap then, this is the cutoff to timetable. I've said this, I'm sure you've got it clearly now. 13th of November in the afternoon. Don't be late, because otherwise your proposal won't get looked at. Short selection period, that's very positive, we think, and then straight into execution from January. These are the email contact details for Victoria, Tessa, and Martin. While you're getting those down, let me also just say to close that this is a very unusual program. If you're a startup and you've been looking for private or public funds, you'll know that they're all set up in different ways. And this one is unusual for a couple of reasons. It's very fully targeted on initial commercialization. And it's at a meaningful level of funding. So 400k euros is meaningful, and it's precisely targeted at that initial stage of commercialization, where it's often hard to find funding sources to help you move through that stage. The other big plus with this program is that it comes with a big bundle of added value services as well. So you come into a very strong pan-European ecosystem that can allow you to find customers, partners, and so on. It allows us to promote you as well through the various events that we run. And also, if you were at the last event, the September event, you will have seen the funding ladder chart. After the Innovation Factory program, which we have here, we then have our Access to Finance program, which is where we help companies which are slightly further along the development curve to secure private capital, late seed or Series A level usually, in order to then very efficiently complete that stage of the journey. So you've got all of those added value elements. There's also a mentorship program as well, which you have access to once you're inside. So we think it's a very, very unique package, very strong, very rich package. It's also very extensively proven across the last 10 years. So I hope you find it very attractive. We're delighted to be working with you. We've seen some really stellar proposal summaries. We're most excited to see those move forward. And we're here for you as well. We do understand that all of this can look slightly complicated at the beginning. It's not really, but when you first land your eyes on it, it can look a bit complicated. But we're here. Those are the email contacts, and we very much want to help you. So that's it from us. Thanks for your time this morning. We hope that we have given you a strong sense of enthusiasm and motivation to go forward with us. And we're looking forward to doing that right now from this afternoon. So thank you and goodbye, and we'll stay in touch. Bye for now.